The following is the conversation between me, Stephanie Cullen, and Ryan Kavanagh. Both are recruiters in Ireland, and they're giving us their perspective insights over hiring on the tech market. This is Ways of Working podcast. Check out Hirebrain, our supporter, on the description. Sorry guys about the settings.
It's okay.
Welcome guys, and we can start like introducing yourselves and what you guys do, and what your role on the job market like as a recruiter. So we can start with Steph then.
Yeah. So thanks so much for having us onto your podcast, Lucas. So my name is Stephanie Cullen. I'm a manager on the technology team in Morgan Mckinley. I have been working with the company for 5 years now, and I've been specializing mainly in software development during that time, mainly kind of .NET architecture space, but I've touched on all industries within technology over the years. So in the last 5 years, I've seen a lot of different markets. Obviously, there was pre-COVID, then COVID, and now we're kind of post-COVID now. And so I'm happy to get into kind of the discussion on how the market is at the moment.
Oh, great. That's good. And Brian, can you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, so I'm a senior recruitment consultant here at Morgan Mckinley. I was hired essentially by Steph, and she may regret that, I don't know.
But sometimes, depends on the day.
But I'm here I think I've been with Morgan Mckinley for a year and a half, kind of came in with no recruitment experience, but was very keen to kind of see what it was like. Technology, it interested me. I know obviously it's a busy space, so I kind of focus on, again, software development, but also we'll take a look at the cloud DevOps space as well. So yeah, kind of big focus on, let's say, Java, .NET, and then we'll also take a look at the likes of DevOps roles, cloud roles, AWS, GCP, Azure, that sort of stuff. But yeah, really happy to be on the podcast and looking forward to seeing how we get on.
Oh, cool. So let's start then talking about like the tech market today. What do you guys see like what is the latest trends? Like what is what the companies they're hiring when they used to work with them, what they're looking for on a job candidate? What is the main technologies you guys seeing that's it's emerging right now? Who wants to start?
Yeah, I can jump in. So obviously to discuss, like, obviously the tech market, the news makes it seem like it's a bit maybe more grim at the moment, but like it's only a small percentage of industry within Ireland, the layoffs. There's still a lot of companies hiring at the moment, like the banking, financial services, fintech, they're still plowing ahead. Our foreign direct investment team actually just did a quarterly survey of what was kind of in the hot seat at the moment. So it came back that cybersecurity roles were in hot demand. We're finding that as well from ourselves. Software development, architecture, that's really busy. We're seeing a lot of companies going through digital transformation at the moment. So we're finding candidates who have experience with that. So it's kind of someone who has started kind of working with the monolithic architecture and have worked kind of into a microservices architecture is in really, really high demand at the moment. I'm not sure yourself, Ryan, you'd probably say similar to myself.
Yeah, I think the common theme amongst candidates that we speak to is that they would like to ideally work with the latest and greatest. So I think when Steph talks about, maybe migrating, transformation projects, I think a lot of companies are looking to stay relevant and stay, I suppose, contemporary. So we do see, that sort of experience in demand. So if you've got migration experience, it's always very nice. It's a lot of projects that we're seeing at the moment, be kind of in that space. But then, yeah, like in terms of, skills, I think, having cloud certifications is always nice. I think clients are looking to see what does this candidate do maybe outside of their actual role day to day. If you do have an interest in upskilling, it's always great. Anyone that comes in with sort of AWS, Azure, GCP experience, they're all very transferable, is what the clients kind of make it very clear to us. So any of those sort of cloud technology experience is really beneficial, I find. And it does show that you're interested in learning, you're interested in growing with the company, which is always what these clients kind of want to see. They want people that can come in and add value, but also grow with the company as well. So yeah, like I mean, the likes of Kubernetes, Terraform. I think Kubernetes is a big one. Obviously, it's kind of recent enough in its existence, but it's definitely the containerization sort of technologies. We kind of see a lot of clients that quite like that. Not essential all the time, but if a client is looking to move that way, it's obviously very beneficial to have candidates that maybe have done some courses or have done a bit of studying in their own time, or else have actually worked with it. The likes of infrastructure as code as well. Seeing a bit more of that coming up. Well, let's say in 2023, Terraform seems to be pretty big right now, and coming across a good few roles where they're kind of preferring candidates that maybe have experience with the likes of Terraform and Ansible as well, that too. So that's kind of what I'm seeing day to day. It's maybe technology, Lucas. I don't know that you would hear yourself in the office. I'm not sure.
It's a variety of technology, yeah. So yeah, interesting to see. And you guys see now that the number of companies that are looking for a new hire, to hire new people, or source a new candidate, these numbers are increasing, or you feel like it's more short? It's getting a little bit shorter after all these layoffs by big tech companies. What do you guys have? Like, what are your perspective over there?
So there definitely is caution from clients. We've had a few clients maybe reevaluate their budget, or that they're holding off hiring till H2 just so their budgets align. They might have overspent budget last year with a lot of hires and just like hoping that it balances out. We're finding contracting is actually getting a lot more popular with clients and candidates as well. But usually if the market is a little unsteady or a little unpredictable, companies and candidates do tend to go contracting. So I'd say the permanent market is definitely on seeing it a lot slower, whereas Ryan, you probably would agree with myself to say that like contracting is definitely busier, which isn't always the case. Like last year it was, I would say 80% permanent hiring and 20% contracting, whereas now I would say it's definitely top heavy to contracting. Companies are still hiring, they still have budget, but I think it's actually hiring like full-time employees. I don't think reluctant is the right word, but that there definitely is some caution there that they have the workload there for the candidate if they hire them. But yeah, I think a lot of companies have read the news and are kind of saying, should we hold off? Should we stop? We don't want to have to be the ones to next lay off. So maybe have just put a pause on things at the moment.
Yeah, I think we've seen particularly a shift in potentially attitude on the market as well. Like, look, we're recruiters, we talk to candidates every day. You know, like I would work contract roles, and a lot of the kind of, let's say last year when you would talk to a candidate about a contract role, there was a lot of hesitancy around it because it seems unstable. I think a lot of developers and engineers and architects, they kind of believe that a contract is a short-term solution, whereas I think what's becoming more evident is the fact that it isn't necessarily a short-term solution. Like, contracts don't have to just be the 6 months or the 3 months and you're done, you know. I think the market is kind of realizing that now, and with all the perm layoffs that we've seen from some of the bigger tech companies, I think it's kind of pushed people to maybe consider different avenues. You know, if you're in a perm position and you think, you know, you're untouchable or you're way more, let's say, secure than you would be in a contract, I think people are now realizing that, you know what, like maybe contract could be the way to go. You know, there's a lot of demand for contractors. It's obviously a nice way to work as well. So I do think that's sort of something that we've noticed, is more and more candidates kind of open to the idea of contracting. And I think that is off the back of, you know, you see the layoffs that have come about. I would say the majority have been permanent employees, which is really interesting because I think it's surprising as well, because I think people would have thought maybe contractors would have been the first to go, but you know, the work still has to get done when headcount has to maybe be reduced.
Absolutely. So like, just one thing to note on that, Lucas, it's like contractors aren't actually included in headcount. So it's the budget for contractors usually sits within the division or under the hiring manager for that project. So that could be the technologies used, that could be the infrastructure that you got to bring in, but it also includes contractors. So that budget is usually approved the year before for that hiring manager. So when layoffs do take place, like on paper and to the stakeholders, these contractors aren't their employees. It's more like, I guess, like fixed income to the project, if that makes sense. So that's what we're finding. I would say 99% of the contractors are still in their role, even if it's in the same companies that did have layoffs. So maybe that's why the market has kind of shifted to that. Clients as well, they don't know what to predict in the next year, but like they still want to move forward with their project. So it's becoming a bit more favorable to them. Obviously, if budgets are reduced, contractors, there's no legal agreement there. It's you, if the project is finishing or there's no budget, then you can just give notice. So there is that flexibility there for them to continue moving forward. But then in the next year or so, if there is to be continuing a downturn, there is a lot more flexibility there from the candidate side and the client side, maybe more so than full-time employment.
All right, interesting. Okay, so you mentioned H2. What this stands for?
That's probably very sales talk or recruitment talk. So we would divide, so usually budgets within companies are done quarterly, or it could be done in half. So at the moment we're currently in Q2, whereas H1 would be January to June, and then H2 would be July till December. So a lot of companies would say, listen, we're going to hold off hiring to H2, which means maybe the summertime, September time, just so our budgets can align.
All right.
Is usually what that means. So companies mainly talk in quarters, but I guess for us now they're saying hiring is kind of on pause till July time. So for us that would be H2.
All right. Okay. Cool. And yeah. So interesting. So you got the point now. For example, the company wants to get a contractor. That's more like in line nowadays. Most of the companies. So how do you guys? I think you're going to be very specific, but like, how do you guys trying to source or like retain that talent that you guys know, like for the back of the head? Like, for example, I need someone as a full stack software engineer, and then like, I remember Lucas, he I know a thing or two. I could reach for him. Or you guys actually have like something place, like your own database of candidates that you just keep that first, and then you go after the people you know? How do you guys like to source your candidates?
I think it's and it'll probably be the same across a number of recruitment agencies. I think naturally the biggest thing for a recruitment agency at the moment, I would say, is probably LinkedIn RPS, which is a service you pay for. It's LinkedIn, but it's for recruiters. So it's probably the biggest. That along with our database, which we've got a great database here. We're using Salesforce, so we would kind of regularly be talking to candidates. I think it's important not to rest on your laurels if you're a little bit quiet in the industry. I think recruitment comes in waves. You're not always going to have loads of roles, and they're not always going to be the sexy roles as well. They're not always like you need to be able to make sure that you're constantly talking to the market. And look, people are busy. Not everyone's going to be open to having a chat with you, but it is good to make sure that we're using that database. We're kind of calling candidates. We're seeing how they're getting on in their current role. We're seeing, look, H2 is coming about soon. Would you be open to a move then? And then kind of having what we would call like a pipeline of candidates then that we know might be open to a move. Because when a role comes in, you do want to move fast because it is competitive. This is a lot of insight into recruitment now, but you are naturally up against, if you're not filling the role, someone else is going to fill it, and obviously it's a very competitive industry as well. So I think making the most of your resources, be it the database, be it the LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn is obviously very good. I know candidates get slightly annoyed on LinkedIn. It's natural, and you can actually obviously say you can deny messages from recruiters, which is obviously a handy feature to have for you guys. But I think for recruiters, it's a really kind of important tool, and it's really important to make sure that you just always are chatting to people. And like there's a lot of people out there that are quite chatty and might have 5-10 minutes to say, look, I'm not looking right now, but this is what I do, this is my experience. If a nice role comes around that has flexible working, this salary or this daily rate, give me a shout.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's important, is knowing who might be on the move rather than who's actually moving right now, and then you can kind of go to them as the role comes in.
You guys think LinkedIn is annoying for you too?
For us, I wouldn't say annoying, but I would say, like, I can imagine that you guys get a lot of messages day in and day out. So I can imagine that there could be a lot of messages coming through from recruiters. Like, I mean, I've spoken to developers, candidates that would say that their messages are swamped and they couldn't get back to me because there's just too many messages there, which is kind of more what I'm getting at. I think for us, I don't know if it's annoying stuff. I think it's a benefit to us.
Absolutely. And it's like, so the difference between normal LinkedIn and RPS, Lucas, is you probably know yourself, when an email comes up, so the RPS license allows us to send messages when we're not connected with someone, and it would always come to the top of their inbox. I know for some candidates that I've spoken to, they might get messages that just aren't applicable to them at all. It might be the salary is way off. It might be the locate. I don't know, that it's stated in their LinkedIn profile, I don't want contracting, or I don't want permanent, and then they're getting messages. So myself and Ryan, we'd be a lot more selective of our messaging. We would take time to read through profiles and make sure that when we're messaging that it's appropriate to them. There's nothing more annoying, I'd say, even from my side as well, when I guess, what's it called, Ryan, the spray and write approach, where you just blanket message to people. It's I know that can get annoying. So that's how I would try to set myself aside from our competitors when I'm sending a message, that it's oh, I see you've worked in X company. This company is quite similar, or I'm seeing you're working with this tool, this technology. I'll always try to personalize as much as I can. But I do understand for candidates, it can be quite frustrating, especially if you're not looking for a role and recruiters are just constantly reaching out.
I think the advice to kind of give, and not everyone has time to go through the LinkedIn profile, but to avoid getting messages maybe that you don't want. We come across some profiles on LinkedIn that are a dream, because you'll know not to message them because they'll almost say it in their bio. So when we're doing a search, we might search a technology and it might pop up on someone's profile. So basically, whatever is in your profile will come up in a LinkedIn search for a recruiter. So what we would kind of say is keep it relevant to what you're actually doing at the moment, rather than having, if you did a bit of Python when you were in school, I don't know if that should be on your LinkedIn profile, because it probably isn't relevant. Now, obviously, when we go through it, we'll see Python's only mentioned back then, but sometimes profiles aren't up to date, and sometimes people don't list the technologies they're using in each role. So it can be hard sometimes, and if your profile isn't up to date and isn't kind of relevant to what you're actually doing, you will receive naturally more messages that aren't relevant to you. So I mean, I always like the approach of in your bio, maybe just kind of highlighting, this is essentially my tech stack. This is what I work with. This is what I'm strong with. This is what I want to work with. As much information as you can give. And like I said, not everyone has the time to do that, but it's kind of to avoid maybe the abundance of messages you might get that aren't relevant. These kind of things could help, it's just kind of highlighting what it is you're looking for. Like we see some profiles that say not open to contracting, working with this, and then you can contact them off the back of that, and they either reply or they don't. But yeah, that's kind of a tip I would give. Definitely is kind of showcasing what you're actually using rather than what you have used in the past.
Yeah, I think that might be over the perspective. I can say with the perspective of the candidate, sometimes it can be annoying. But the main point, I believe, sometimes it's annoying is because when you get a lot of people on your networking. So, for example, on my connections, I have more than 5,000 connections on LinkedIn. So sometimes you're going to be easily be reached by other companies, So then what happens is sometimes people just read your profile, see some skills. My profile that has a lot of skills, but then there is like, I work with Java for 6 months, but then they wanted you to fill a role, apply for a position that's actually asked for a senior role in Java. And sometimes I think that's just mismatching communication that we can actually going to be failing, I believe, not just on a recruitment perspective, but a candidate perspective as well. Because sometimes like some candidates, they're desperate for a job and they like put everything that they put the knowledge on top, and then they're going to be reaching out by a lot of company. And then that's why I asked if it was frustrating for you guys, because sometimes you can actually match with someone on LinkedIn and then say, oh, okay, this person has all this technology, and you call them and actually, oh, this person wasn't very skillful on that. And then sometimes that is miscommunication between like what the recruiter wants and what the candidate puts on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think for us though, it's kind of a case of, every person we talk to is of benefit in some way, because like, although I might be looking for someone that has Java, and this person has Java on their profile along with loads of other things, when I get on the phone to them and I start chatting to them and they say to me, I've actually only used Java for 3 months, but I have really good .NET experience. Well, then I can kind of pass that candidate maybe on to my colleague, or I could say it to the candidate, look, to be honest, this role wouldn't be suitable, but look, we do have roles that are more applicable to you. So I think there's always, like, we've got a big team, we work across a number of different markets. Like it is quite likely that we can help a lot of candidates. So I think it's less frustrating for us. I think we can kind of look at it. It might be the initial feeling might be, oh, this candidate's not going to be good for this role, but the candidate could be good for another role. And I think that's the important thing, is to know that you don't need to shoehorn a candidate into a role. You might have a different role across a different team that would be as much of a fit for that candidate, So I think that's the kind of approach I take. I don't know about yourself, Steph, what would your approach be?
Yeah, definitely. And Lucas, you kind of touched on it. Like, I understand it's people put like all of their technologies, their tools, their platforms, everything they've kind of worked with in their like employment history, and it's brilliant that they've had like exposure to all of these different things. But what I tell candidates, or like what we would see on like LinkedIn, like, only put it down if you're happy to discuss it in detail in an interview. That's what I say.
That's good.
Like, we can't be like, hiring managers especially, they know like you can't be an expert in everything. So when someone tells you they're an expert in everything, you kind of have to have a bit of caution there, because it's you might be a jack of all trades but a master of none. So we would much rather see, like, from our side and from like the hiring manager or talent acquisition point of view, if you're only working with 3 technologies, like, put that there. It doesn't show that you're not experienced. If anything, it shows the hiring manager, the talent acquisition, straight away, well, they're quite applicable to the role, because that's the tech stack that we're working with. And usually there's up to 3 mandatory requirements on a job spec, and that obviously would be the programming language is probably the main one, maybe cloud experience, but usually the frameworks, usually they're quite open to the other tools or technologies, because every company is working with a different stack, different tooling. They might have, I don't know, worked in that project differently. So if you kind of have the fundamentals of the role, hiring managers are usually open to conversation. So, but sometimes if you see a CV and it's like 5 pages long with loads of different tools, technologies, it can be quite overwhelming to review, because you're like, I can't
What this person's niche is.
And like, this stat actually might shock you a bit, Lucas, but they say that the average time a hiring manager or a HR team reviews a CV is 30 seconds. That's how long.
Yeah.
Like, because if you think about it, they might only have half an hour in their diary to go through them. They have a lot of interest. So it has to be so clear from like looking straight away, okay, this is what their expertise is, this is what they're looking for, this is what they're doing in their role. So that's like one bit of advice me and Ryan were talking about before the podcast. Like, the shorter the better, and the more concise the better, because it's very evident then from the start what you're looking for and where your experience lies.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Hiring managers just don't have the time to be looking through 10 pages. And like, to be honest, as a recruiter, if you see 10 pages of a CV, it less affects us, because we're like, wow, this person has 10 pages of experience. But it's kind of like a red flag, because you're kind of like, look, we need to try concise this down. At the interview, you'll deliver all this information and you'll wow the interviewer with your knowledge on what you've done. But I actually think it's a real skill to be able to like make your CV the right size. I'd say 3 pages would be ideal. You know, first page is a bit of information about yourself, your education. You know, a lot of people include their interests. I think that's no harm putting that down. I don't know if hiring managers read it, but I'm sure it does bear fruit at the interview stage when they're seeing if you're a culture fit, of course. But I always say, like, look, the best way to maybe do a CV, in my opinion, in the tech space, as a recruiter, this is how I would look at it, is I like to see, you know, current company, the dates that they've been at this company, maybe like a little paragraph about the project. So what are the products that you're working on, whatever it is that you are actually working on, and then maybe listing out some of the tools that you've used, the languages you've worked with. You know, have you worked with Kubernetes? Like, you know, are you working on-prem? Are you working on the cloud? And then maybe doing this for each experience that you have, depending on if you've got 20 years of experience, maybe you could do the last 6 of your roles, because if you have 20 years of experience, maybe more that 20 page mark. But I do think that is a big thing, because, like, you know, I think I was chatting to someone, I can't remember who it was before, but they were saying, I think it was actually a candidate of mine, and he does interviews, and he was saying if they've got time to do a 20-page CV, they maybe aren't putting time elsewhere into their job. You know, basically kind of a fun way of saying the shorter the better. Be more efficient with your time. Be more efficient with the manager's time as well. So, certainly I think concise in your CV, making it very clear what your strengths are, and not bluffing, because you won't get by an interview if you know something that you don't, you know.
Yeah, you guys answered all my questions. I was about to ask about, like, what's the perfect job description. You just answered to me.
We rambled on.
It's good, but it's good though. Yeah. So you have anything to add, Seth?
Just exactly what Ryan. Oh, sorry, Ryan. Go ahead.
You go ahead, Steph.
This always happens day to day, Lucas. Me and Ryan sit beside each other, and it's always like, oh, the two of us are constantly chatting. I would say just exactly what Ryan has said. Like, but I'd say the last 3 to 5 years are the most relevant to the role you're applying for. So that's what the hiring managers are going to look at. What are you doing in your current role? Maybe it's not as applicable, your current role, to this role, so they'll look at your previous role. So going into detail, maybe what the company might do, it might be so obvious, especially if you're working with a startup or like a more SME, they might necessarily know the name. So maybe a 1 or 2 line about what the company does, then details of the project you're working on, and then follow up with your responsibility on that project. And then the tech stack that the tools and technologies that you'd be working with, maybe on a daily or weekly basis. That's, I think, for me personally, I think it's really clean. And I think you can tell from the start, yeah, this person is a good fit. I want to chat with them.
All right.
And that's essentially what we're trying to do with the CV, to get you on the phone.
All right. That's interesting.
Get you face to face with the manager. So I think that's the best way, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a very valuable information. I think thank you guys for sharing this. It's really good to understand that. And so what is today, in your opinion, the main challenge over recruitment? Let's say, is the shortage of candidates, is a high competition, or the changes of industry requires like new technologies that it doesn't have yet candidates for that. So like what would be like the main challenges you guys face nowadays on the recruitment side?
Do you want to take it first?
It depends on the day, Lucas, to be honest. It changes all the time. Depends what role you're working, or it depends. But at the moment, its processes is very slow, isn't it, Ryan? And we're losing out on candidates due to that, and it's out of our control. But like that, it comes to maybe what we touched on at the start, where clients are a bit more cautious, they're reevaluating budget. So it's frustrating for the candidate and ourselves that we're putting in the time, the candidate's putting in the time to do their CV, and then maybe radio silence for a few weeks, and kind of the interest might go then in a role, do you know?
But I do think it's probably important for us to make sure we're relaying that to our candidates, because it's it can be quite unpleasant to tell someone that nothing is happening. And I think, like, that is actually really important to do, is to update a candidate, and tell them. And it's the same with clients, with recruitment consultants. Like, any sort of update is an update. This process is slow, just to let you know, or CVs are still under review. Any update is something, and it's very valuable, I find. But I think it kind of plays back into the fact that the market right now is just naturally a little bit slower. It's not horrendous at all. We're not quiet. We're kept busy, which is great. And we're always looking to speak with new clients. We're always looking to see where we can help people in the market. But I think from a candidate point of view, it's very important to make sure that your expectations align with the market as well. So I think when recruitment is sort of slow, maybe you're on the move, you do need to, maybe adjust some of your expectations. I think the days of demanding really high salaries and remote working might be beyond us now. I think, people are going to have to start compromising somewhere. I don't think you can get the remote role from Tenerife with 150k salary straight off the bat. I don't know if we can get that anymore. I think candidates have to really, what I always recommend is, look, have a couple of recruiters that you like to talk to. Like, I think I was saying this to Steph, there's no way that every candidate is going to like every recruiter. Like, working with recruiters should be an enjoyable experience. It shouldn't be, you shouldn't be working with someone you don't like, really, because like you won't like everyone, and people's styles are different. So I would say, like, as a candidate on the market in tech at the moment, like, have a couple of recruiters, or even just the one that you trust, that you go to for information. It's good to know what the market's paying. It's good to know how busy it is. It's good to know, our clients looking for candidates to go on site. And then when you do go for a role, whether it's through that recruitment consultant or another one that you trust, you are going in and you want to be competitive against other candidates, because you're not the only candidate going for a role.
It's true.
And the smart ones will be doing this. Obviously, you don't want to be taking a hit to your income, but if you're looking for a new role and you really want to work with new technology, you may need to let's say, compromise on your salary front, or your daily rate front, or you might need to go on site 3 days a week, that sort of thing. So that's kind of my advice at the moment. Like, while it's a little bit slower, definitely chat to recruiters that are on the market. They're talking to candidates and clients, and kind of get a feel for it yourself, and then you can kind of position yourself correctly when you're going for a role. And the market will be like, the market's it goes in waves. That's only natural, and it'll get really busy again, and that's just the way it is. And look, it's not to say it's absolutely dead right now, but I think everyone can kind of see from the tech companies pulling out, that sort of thing, and letting people go. It's only natural that it's a bit slower. But that's my advice. Definitely stick to a recruiter and get some information, because it's valuable.
It's true. Do you have anything to add, Steph?
I guess another challenge because I would have obviously recruited. It's funny that we always discuss it like pre-COVID, post-COVID, but before, like, that's like, I was probably in 2 years. Relocation was really big. I worked with a lot of candidates who maybe relocated from somewhere in Europe. Maybe it was Brazil, maybe it was India. That's not really happening anymore. So I find that has become a challenge to maybe generate new talent, maybe because there is a shortage of talent on the market at the moment. Like, most IT professionals are really sought after. They might have been let go from the likes of Amazon or Google, but I promise you that they're snapped up within a week or two. They're not on the job market long. So I guess there's pros and cons to it, that there's a lot more flexibility around maybe where people are located. COVID has realized that, but a lot of companies, especially permanent hire, they must be based in Ireland to be a tax resident, but we're not finding people are relocating as much, which obviously that's a lot of IT professionals over the years have relocated, and that's why we have such high, strong talent in Ireland. But it's definitely really slowed down. Maybe during COVID, a lot of people might have moved back to where they're from, or might have moved somewhere a bit more sunnier. We can't lie, Ireland's not very sunny. So that's definitely a challenge for me, just because I would have known what the market was like for relocation. It was like a lot of roles people relocated for. So chatting with new talent, that's probably a challenge for us.
Face-to-face piece as well in general is is something that I think a lot of recruitment agencies in particular are probably trying to push at the moment, because, you know, you can't beat meeting a person. Even like this, it's so different to a phone call. But then when you meet someone in person, you'll really get to feel what they're like. You know, you'll start to build that relationship with them. So I think that's even a struggle, is because obviously everyone is quite, you know, a lot of the people are working remotely, or some people, you know, are kind of still not getting back out there, and that's only natural after the couple of years we've been through. But I think for us, we're I think in Morgan Mckinley in particular, we're all very much people, so we all want to be meeting people all the time, and we want to have these relationships with our candidates and with people and our clients, that we're putting a face to the name, and we're not just a process. And we're like, there's a lot of chat about robots and automation. We don't think we could be replaced, because the personal element of recruitment is so big, and it's so important, because, you know, it's a people's business, really. So I think that's something that we're trying to do. And like, look, a lot more candidate meetings are happening, a lot more client meetings are happening, which is great, in person, which is really what we want to see. So I think getting people back out there, and you know, we're like, a lot of people would have joined recruitment after COVID, and it was very slow in terms of everything was locked down. So that's something that we're definitely, I wouldn't see it as a challenge. It's maybe more so just an obstacle we're trying to, you know, break down. We're trying to make it more normal to see people in person again. Because I think, Steph, before COVID, candidates would have come into the office, wouldn't they, to maybe chat to you guys, which is crazy to me, because I started after COVID. So I'm like, how do I get these guys out to me? Like, you
know. All interviews were face to face, so sometimes you'd like go out and meet them for a coffee before their interview. So that people aspect is really important, I think, for building a relationship with our candidates, but also like candidates need to have trust in you as well. And I think that's definitely formed, like you form a better relationship when you meet someone face to face. They're not just a name on an email or a name on a LinkedIn message. So, and you can really kind of delve into more what you're looking for. And you kind of get that more consultative approach. Like, we are consultants. We're here to help candidates find jobs, help clients find the right candidates. So the more, I guess, conversations, the more FaceTime we get, we'll be able to sell you better on the market, like try to find that perfect job for you. And like I said, consultative approach.
Yeah, I think that's
not waste your time.
I think that's why most of the time recruitment companies, they don't scale much. They have to hire a lot of people to do jobs for them as a recruitment side, because you actually have to talk to people. You have to you have this human side that you can avoid, and you can't just put like automatic systems there, and then it's gonna be like boom, that's it. And sometimes you require some human interaction, even though like even if you're creating something that's automatic, you still have this human side. You're gonna need humans to help like the companies and the candidates to match with each other. That's interesting, and actually it's a new perspective. I just opened my eyes right now.
Well, look, it's important, because people can lie, and it's like on a piece of paper. So like it's really gonna, you learn a lot from someone when you speak to them on the phone, whether if you meet them in person. You learn so much more than what they can write down on a piece of paper, and that's not a bad thing. It can be a really good thing. Someone might, like, there's candidates out there that might have a fairly simple CV, and then you go meet them, and the work they've done is incredible. You know, they're really good people. Their interests are really cool. All this sort of stuff can't happen with just an automated process that doesn't involve humans, which I think is, because I think there is a worry on the market now. Like, everyone's like, oh, will AI take over our roles? But I just think the interaction you get from people to people is just, you just can't really replace it, really.
All right. So that gets me to the question then, AI and machine learning. So like you see, there is a lot of like recruitment process that is being over this target of AI that we try. I'm saying technology people trying to make everything more automatic, and using like if the popularity of ChatGPT, I've been seeing a lot of solutions over recruitment and different approaches on ways to make the process more automatic. So what are your guys' perspective over this AI machine learning technologies, and you feel like is going to make your job is this gonna be taking over your job, or is gonna be helping you on your job? What are you guys' perspectives on it?
I think it should, and it should really help a lot of people. I mean, I think the whole chat GPT thing is interesting because when you start off, let's say you're a new recruiter and you're starting off, you know, you might not have any technology experience, put it that way. You might see a job spec that's come from a client, and if you've just started a week, you might not have any clue how to go about it. I think this is where the likes of ChatGPT can really help, because you can use that to maybe give you an understanding. Because I know it's actually crazy. Like there's a guy in our team, and he loves using this, and it's actually mad how it can actually break down things in simplistic forms for you. Like, so I think what I've seen is new people starting out in recruitment in a new market. It's a really good way to maybe use it to learn about the market a bit more. If there's a technology, Kubernetes, for example, when I started off in tech, I was like, what is this word that I keep seeing? And why does everyone want to have it? Like, so if I had Chat GPT back then, I could have just put it in. But look, we can still use Google, and that still helps, you know.
Sure.
So it's I think it's kind of leverage us. Yeah, we just hope it doesn't go too far, that they can interact with people and replace what we can do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we probably haven't seen it as much. Me and Ryan were talking about this. It's still a real buzzword and a hot topic at the moment. But like even the demand for like AI engineers, machine learning engineers, I don't think it has fully hit Ireland yet. So people are talking about it and seeing like, oh, well, we'll change our future forever. But I haven't necessarily seen it being implemented or being taken on yet. So I'm just hoping it will like definitely aid maybe search. You might be able to come across candidates that you might necessarily be able to come across on a normal like Boolean string, or but like going back to Ryan's initial point, it doesn't have the people side to it yet. We don't know, it probably will over time. But that is definitely what sets us apart. Yeah, hopefully it will help us and will help candidates maybe write a CV. I know it can write a CV for you. It can help hiring managers writing a job spec. It can really like speed things up. But I think at the end of the day, like we will still need to jump on the phone or meet someone for coffee to be able to qualify someone appropriately for the role, see what their motivations are. I don't know what they're hoping to get into. Yeah, you can put this down in a CV, but once you kind of get into the conversation, sometimes people might necessarily know what they want from their next role, and we're here to aid them, like asking different questions, help them think in a different way. And I guess people don't really think about moving job until they get the offer, and then they're like, oh God, I haven't really thought about that. So we're here to kind of help them throughout that, being like, okay, if you had the offer now, like what are like absolute deal breakers? What like is work-life balance really important to you? I know since COVID, a lot of people love to be able to still drop and collect their kids from school. Like those little things that people don't think about until maybe it could be taken away from them. So knowing that information and you only kind of get that from the face-to-face or the phone calls, the video calls, or whatever it might be, because people might necessarily have thought about it, those little things that make, I guess, work enjoyable and why we want to work somewhere. So
I think humans are creatures of habit as well. So I think AI is going to have a big impact on a lot of people's lives and jobs in I'm sure in a good way. But I think it'll have a barrier to break down because people are used to their processes. They're maybe old school in how they approach, let's say, recruitment. And there's a lot of really good recruiters that have their process, and if let's say more technology comes in that can help them, who's to say they'll actually make use of it, because their process that they're using now has worked for them their whole career. So it'll be very interesting to see the impact it has. I don't think it's had much so far, but I know you're kind of big into it, Lucas, and I'm very intrigued to hear how it maybe it can help and leverage recruitment. And I think I'm by no means like closed off to it. I'm always interested to hear what's on the market, what are people kind of thinking, what way it will go.
Yeah, I believe the AI will at least enhance the way that you guys work, and I don't believe it's gonna kill any jobs just yet. And because I have this discussion before in another podcast, but it was in Portuguese. And I think you guys couldn't like listen because you
We're still
maybe
working.
probably wouldn't
Still working
understand.
on that Portuguese.
But one of the things that I say is like our work is always changing because like my job today, for example, I have this side project that I took like it's just myself and another person to put everything online, up and running, and accessible to all over the world. And it took just two people. And back when I started working with tech, would require 10 people. So it's reduced and make it more automatic, and it doesn't mean that these 10 people that was required before, these other 8 they are out of job. They're performing all the tasks in different parts of the company. So for me is it will make some tedious job a little bit better and automatic, and going to help you like to focus on on the core of your business. Like core is to build relationship, to find the candidates, and then you can let like the AI get you the candidates, and you can build a relationship from that. For example, that's my perspective and my hot take.
I'm all for
But
the hot takes.
yeah, but I believe that that's the way that actually AI is going to be introduced to us. And some point in time, people think when the new technology come over, people think, oh, it's all over now, and you might going to be out of job tomorrow. But the process of adoption is not like that. And even though this ChatGPT was highly adopted, and you can see that's not perfect, and actually it's not like an expert in everything. It give you a good answer, give you a good head start, but doesn't give you like a full picture of what you need to do.
Yeah.
So
I think it's
yes,
the assistance it could provide is definitely interesting, and like you said, it'll be interesting to see how it can progress. But I do
yes.
think well, like from what I've seen, it's definitely not a negative thing in our space for sure. I think anything that helps us work more efficiently, will always be kind of welcome in Morgan McKinney for sure.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
All right. I'm gonna pressure guys a little bit, but it's just like one thing that I was getting my head right because back in 2000, like now I don't remember 2017, I work in a division of IBM called Adverse Impact, and then that was my introduction to AI and machine learning, where I really started learning. And Adverse Impact was a system that actually help IBM customers to identify problems and diversity problems into their like the divisions. Like for example, in a software engineer, you have like this kind of description between I don't know men and women and all this stuff, and then this actually creates an alert for the company to highlight like what is the areas they need to tackle over diversity. So bringing diversity, and I know this is a topic that's increasing right now in Ireland. My question would be like when your customers came over to you and ask you, oh, I need a candidate, a specific candidate for Java role, do they mention they need like a specific, like I need women, or I need like a person that's not an Irish person? They actually add some diversity clause while you searching for candidates?
You
Yeah, I can jump in. So I would say no. Lucas is we're quite it's quite lucky in Ireland. I would say technology compared to the other divisions in Morgan Mckinley probably is a lot more diverse. Obviously, companies are trying to adopt some initiatives and some programs to ensure that they're being inclusive. So, like one large global bank that we work with, when we're sending CVs, we must completely anonymize it. We have to take out their name, their gender, their nationality, their anything that might highlight this person. We need to take it out. So then they're just basically going off what the CV is, and then obviously when called to interview, all that information will be provided. So I think they're trying to be a lot more inclusive that way. Women in tech is really big at the moment, so we would never have a role where someone would say, we want a woman for this, or we want a man for this, or we want, I don't know, an Irish person for this, or we would never, we actually would say, we're like, but we can't work like that. You might have, if you come across a strong female who's looking to get into this, we're always open to conversations, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll create a job just because it is a woman, or it is because what the other thing is. They're always open to conversations, and that would probably be one big thing at the moment. Companies are trying to learn more about. They'll ask us for like statistics around it and how maybe they can make it a bit more inclusive for women within the tech environment. But like, if we find that people are being selective based on gender, based on race, based on nationality, we would completely like stop that conversation and say, this is not how we work. We will find you the right person for the job based off their experience and based off their tech stack. So I haven't really come across it where it's maybe they're only considering someone based on where they're from or based on their gender. But yeah, like, companies are really interested to get more diverse, to be more inclusive. And I know a lot more companies are doing initiatives around like how many nationalities they have within the office. So they are really pushing that and saying, we're really proud that we have, maybe it could be 20 nationalities, it could be, I don't know what it might be. So people are really getting behind that and doing case studies on it. Maybe you might see like interviews on LinkedIn of people saying how inclusive it might be. But particularly in the tech industry, they really are embracing it.
All right, that's nice.
Definitely.
And I think it's kind of clear to see how many, multinational companies invest in Ireland. Like, if we were to just stick to those that were born in Ireland and those that are of a certain gender or whatever, it's not going to work. Like, there's talented engineers, architects, managers that are from all different backgrounds. And I think it's very much in tech is what I've found since I've been in it, which is the year and a half that I've been here. It's never been something that I've ever come across, and it would have been something that I would have been curious about. Like, would a company have a preference, and would that ever pop up at all? But like for example, I work with contractors. I've a diverse range of contractors working with me that are from all sorts of backgrounds, and you would definitely not think that there was any sort of exclusion going on. Like, I think diversity is definitely a big thing in Ireland, in tech particularly, and like Steph said, the women in tech movement is great, and it's you see a lot of articles and I suppose podcasts about it on LinkedIn as well. So it's not something that I think you would come across really in this day and age. I think we're progressing well, which is great.
Yeah, it's been great. And so just to push a little bit further, what about non-Europeans in Ireland? So what do you guys think about, because I had to put it in perspective, right? So I'm Brazilian, and I wouldn't be here if it was a company who actually offered me a job position and I could apply for my visa and stay in Ireland. So do you guys believe that this, I'm not saying that we're just jumping from the diversity to a little bit further, and do you believe that is a real struggle today when you find a good candidate that's in Ireland and this person is non-European to actually get this person into a job position?
I think from if I was to take this one, like, I think it's tricky for us because companies come to us to get them, like, let's say they may not offer a sponsorship, for example, and that is a big thing that we come up against. Like, if a company comes to us because they want us to find them diamonds, or let's say, I don't know, like, they want us to find candidates that they can't source themselves because they don't have the time or maybe the budget to do so themselves. So I think a big thing is that we wouldn't come across many people that are, or many clients that are willing to sponsor, that will come to a recruitment agency, because obviously the sponsorship will cost them money, and then they're outsourcing the recruitment to us, which is going to cost them money as well. So I think it's a tricky one when asking someone that actually works for a recruitment agency, because for us, like, we just don't really see that many clients that are willing to sponsor. But I do know that in Ireland in general, the best way I would recommend to do is applying direct. I've never had this conversation specifically with anyone else in the recruitment agencies, but I would imagine it's a similar feeling across the board. Like obviously we want to help people, but there's only so much we can do because our hands are tied by, you know, if the client is paying us to look after their recruitment. If we bring them someone that might require sponsorship and that would require extra funding, it might be a bit tricky, you know.
Yeah. Just a second. I think Steph is back now. But yeah, so like just before like we go, I have just a last question, and it's more a philosophical one. So
Yes.
I really like philosophers, and one of my favorites is Aristotle. And Aristotle, he once said, "Pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work." So for you guys, doing all the insight that you have shared with us here today, and so in your opinion, what is the true value of work in the tech industry, and how can like a job seeker or an employer find the perfection in their roles?
It's a good question, Lucas.
Very good question, and I think the answer will differ with everybody.
All right.
So I know for me, like what's really important is the people I work with, that I'm like laughing daily, that I'm like, because every job is pressurized. So I think that's really important, right? That first of all, the culture is a good fit, and you have people that you can chat to about non-work stuff. But I would say for the majority is people want to work on really cool projects. That's what I find is what keeps people in the tech space interested. If they're learning, if the company's investing in them, if the company's investing in the latest tools, latest technologies, that's what I would say is probably number one. That keep people happy in the role. Hopefully that's answered it. Right.
I would say like,
Perfect.
Just find. I'd say like just find what gets you up out of bed, and you know, make the most of it. Like I mean, not everyone enjoys work, and obviously, ideally, we wouldn't have to work, and we would just get paid, and it would be a great life we would live. But we all have to. So I think it's really kind of finding the right environment for you, and then using that to kind of leverage your own skills. You know, you want to grow in a company, I'm sure, like. Unless you don't, but like a lot of people want to grow and they want to progress and they want to obviously personally achieve things. So it's really for me in recruitment, it's, you know, it's chatting to people. That's why I got into recruitment. I was like, how do I combine wanting to talk to people and then also, you know, making money, and this was the kind of way to go. Like, so a big thing for me is I love building relationships with people. I think, you know, the events we've been doing, Lucas, are great because it gets you out there, you get to talk to people. It can be overwhelming, but it's really good, and it's after COVID, it's a great thing to do. So yeah, for me, it's surrounding yourself with the right people and with a role that can actually help you get to where you want to go, and that gets you out of bed pretty much.
All right, perfect, guys. All right, thank you, guys. It was really good. And actually, it was a lot of insights here. No, that was perfect. Listen, guys, thank you very much. And